Well, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. I am Pastoral Intern Colin Newharth, and welcome to this week's rendition of Studying God's Word. This week, we continue in Mark chapter 7, where Jesus sets out to the region of Tyre, and he comes up with an interesting interaction with a Gentile woman, and we'll see how this all plays out. So we are in chapter Mark chapter 7, starting with the 24th verse. And so it says Jesus set out in the region of Tyre, a predominantly Gentile um, area of the land, and so he entered a house and did not want anyone to know he was there. This is very common uh, in the Gospel of Mark. Jesus likes to be very secretive. In Mark, Jesus likes to leave people questioning. Jesus likes to try to stay under the radar, but as we can see as we make our way through the Gospel of Mark, that doesn't work out the way I think Jesus has envisioned, because we're all human and we usually have trouble keeping secrets. 2,000 years ago, the ideology was no different. People spilled the beans about Jesus, obviously, and that's how he got on the cross and died and rose again. But over and over and over in Mark, you see, you'll find that Jesus tries his hardest to say, "Don't tell anybody, don't let anybody know I'm here. This is a secret." Whatever, in different forms depending on the situation. So, but then it follows up in the text here. He said, "Yet he could not escape notice, but a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him, and she came and bowed down at his feet." Um, so there's the case in point. Jesus is trying to have these boundaries of remaining secret, uh, trying to keep his powers and who he actually is under wraps, trying not to rock the boat, so to speak. But then it says he did not escape notice. So let's see what happens when he meets this woman who has bowed down at his feet, who has a daughter with an unclean spirit. Um, Now, back then, that could have meant a number of things compared to the modern day, but we can conclude that this woman's daughter had some sort of illness, some sort of probably like mental, emotional, spiritual type of thing going on. We don't quite know, but they call those types of things unclean spirits. So now on verse 26, the the writer in Mark explains who this woman is. And it says, "Now the woman was a Gentile of Syro-Phoenician origin, and she begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter." Now that's very significant because Jesus, up to this point, was very much teaching and preaching to the Jewish people. So now to set Jesus in the place of more Gentiles, meaning like more people who were of the empire, pagan religion, those types of things. This is significant because Jews and Gentiles, as a general rule, didn't really mix or play well together. So Jesus in 27 starts interacting with this woman, and he says, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." 28, she answers, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And then Jesus says back, For saying that, you may go, the demon has left your daughter." And it says, so she went home, found the child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. So this is an interesting conversation. And to kind of have an understanding of this, we need to understand the role of dogs 2,000 years ago. So dogs 2,000 years there. So 2,000 years ago, Roman Empire, there was a very specific societal, I call it a food chain, but it had to do with status in society. Men of the Roman Empire of nobility were the highest, and animals were the lowest, generally speaking. I will be the first to admit I'm not very knowledgeable on that societal piece of Roman Empire history. But generally speaking, women, children were lower than women, and below that were like dogs and stray cats and whatever. So, knowing that, it's almost saying here, it's almost saying the children are almost equal to dogs here. They're just that low, but the woman says, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." She's kind of saying in here, she's indirectly saying, metaphorically, that she has faith and is willing to fight for her child, having coming back with that defense. That she's almost saying that her child is worth more than even the dogs. And Jesus recognizes this type of faith in her. And so then he proclaims the demon has left her daughter, and indeed that happens. So we switch gears starting at 31 here. And it goes, Jesus returned from the region of Tyre. And then it kind of outlines his next travels. And I'll get into why this is significant a bit. But he returned from the region of Tyre, went to Sidon towards the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. That is significant. That is generally Gentile territory. Again, Jesus is breaking those boundaries that were known so well of Jews being separated from the Gentiles. They generally don't interact with each other, and if they do, it's not pretty. So setting that geography in there kind of tells us how open Jesus is to all people, and how Jesus shows that love to all people. So then it goes into another healing miracle here. It says they brought him a deaf man who had an impediment in his speech, and they begged him to lay his hand on him. So Jesus took the man aside in private, and he took him away from the crowd, put his fingers in his ears, and he spat and touched his tongue. Ew, gross. Kind of. I mean, do what you gotta do, Jesus. And then looking up to heaven, he sighed to him. He said, Ephphatha, which is be opened. And at that moment, the man's ears and eyes were open, or ears, his ears were opened, his tongue was released and he spoke plainly. Verse 36. Again, we're back to Jesus being kind of secretive again. He says, Jesus ordered them to tell no one. But here's that point being proven of our humanness. It says, the more he ordered them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. They're like, no, Jesus, this is so significant, we can't not tell anybody. And so this is kind of a turning point in Jesus' ministry where people are starting to notice him, where people are starting to notice there's something different about this king, this Messiah that we were waiting for. There's a different expectation here. And so it says they were astounded beyond measure, saying, he has done everything well. He even makes the deaf to hear and the mute to speak. Again, the crowd is noticing what Jesus is doing, how Jesus' ministry is starting to play out. And both those who support him and those who don't are taking notice at what he is doing, and continues to do for us today, which this will eventually lead to Jesus' death and promised resurrection. Well, I hope that gives you some ideas as to how to explore this text. Again, grace and peace to you. Thank you for joining me, and we're wishing everybody a blessed week.